All right, let's talk about skewers. Let's talk about kebabs. Let's talk about everything that goes on a stick. Kebabs are a great choice for summer grilling, and they are always a crowd pleaser. I'm gonna show you how to prep your skewers, how to cut everything the same size, why that's important. Also, why to keep your meat separate from your veggies. I'm also gonna show you the importance of using a dry rub and how to check the doneness on your skewers. All right, let's get started. I'm using wooden skewers. I like the look of them, but you can also use metal skewers. I have 10-inch wooden skewers. You want to make sure you soak these in water for at least 30 minutes up to an hour. So I usually put them on a sheet tray, and you really want that water to fully soak into the wood. This keeps it from catching on fire. All right, so this is what they should look like once they're soaked. This is a dry one. You can see they're a little bit darker, so at least a half hour up to an hour. Just grab your water, pour it over, make sure they're submerged. And if you want, put something on top. Just set this off to the side. And while those soak, I already have some ready to go, so I'm gonna turn on my grill. I want it to about 450, so I'm gonna turn on all of my burners. We're using direct heat for this method. And then I want to clean my grates before I grill and after. So let this come up to 450. And while that comes up to temp, let's make our spice mixture. So I feel like when people cook chicken or kebabs, they want to douse it in a wet marinade. I'm personally not the biggest fan of a wet marinade. I find that it drips off and causes flare-ups, and then you get that soot, that smoke on your food. So if you're gonna do a wet marinade, just pat off your veggies or your meat before you skewer it so they're as dry as possible. But I'm a big fan of a dry rub. I also have tons of spices in my pantry, so I always kind of have something on hand. So this is my dry rub for both the veggies and the chicken. I'm gonna add 1.5 tablespoons of turmeric, 2 teaspoons of curry powder, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of paprika, which is nice and smoky, 1.5 teaspoons of freshly cracked black pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. I'm using garlic powder instead of fresh garlic. Fresh garlic has a tendency to burn on the grill, so I'm gonna use garlic powder. 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. It adds just a little bit of warmth to this dish, and I think people often think of cinnamon for sweet, but I use it a lot for savory. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you don't like things spicy, you can completely leave it out. You can add a little bit more, you can add a little bit less. So spices are in. You could also like double or triple this recipe and keep it in a container in your pantry so you have the spice mixture ready to go whenever you want to use it. And like I said, I'm using it on chicken and zucchini, but it would be really good on chicken thighs, chicken breast, whole chicken, even fish. Okay, spice mixture is ready to go. So I'm gonna set that aside. Let's take our zucchini and our chicken. So in this bowl, I have 2 medium zucchini, and I've cut them into 1-inch pieces. It's really important to make sure everything you're cooking is roughly the same size and it all cooks at about the same time. I'm using zucchini, it cooks pretty quickly. You could use yellow squash. So I have my zucchini in one bowl, and I have 2 chicken breasts in another bowl. I'm gonna drizzle both with a little bit of grapeseed oil. You wanna use a high smoke point oil. So grapeseed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, just a little bit so the spice mixture adheres. I don't want this swimming in oil. I'm using chicken breast. If you're using chicken thighs, they'll just take a little bit longer to cook. Oil's on. I'm gonna evenly split my spice mixture between these 2 bowls. So sprinkle some over here, and then sprinkle the rest over here. We're gonna stir it up. You just wanna make sure everything's coated, everything's covered. Okay, and then same with the chicken. If it feels a little dry, you can add just a little bit more oil. Again, don't go crazy. The more oil on your veggies and your chicken, the more chance it has to drip off and to flare up on you. So, and we're gonna oil our grates too, so they're not gonna stick on you. Chicken's ready. I'm gonna set that aside. So we're gonna start with our tomatoes. Why am I starting with our tomatoes? this doesn't have any spice mixture on them. So I'm gonna start with this while my hands are clean. Then I'm gonna move over to my zucchini. So add 1 grape or cherry tomato like this. You wanna leave a little bit of a handle at the bottom of your skewer. So add 5 to 6, whatever feels right. And just skewer these on. Again, this will be the same technique if we're using a metal skewer. The thing I do like about wooden skewers is I feel like they kind of hold on to the food a little bit better. Like metal's almost too good at doing what it's supposed to do, and it's a little too slick. And sometimes I feel like the food will fall off when I'm grilling it, and the wood will hold on to it. All right, I'm gonna finish the rest of these. Tomatoes are done. Let's move on to our zucchini. The turmeric might stain your hands yellow, so that's just a fun thing you're gonna have to deal with, and it comes off with soap and water. And then after my zucchini, I'm gonna finish with my chicken because I do not want any cross-contamination of the chicken getting on my veggies. So I'm gonna put about 10 to 12 pieces of zucchini per skewer. And honestly, you can put it on however you want. You can kind of put it like this. Again, leave a little bit of a handle at the bottom. So you can put it on like this. Then you can be like, I want to be wild. I want to put one on like this. Crazy. You know what I mean? So I like to do this because this part will get grilled and then this part will get grilled. So you'll have different texture of zucchini. Okay? And my skewers are still wet because I do not want them to catch fire. I'm gonna finish this one up and continue with the rest of my skewers until all of my zucchini is done. On to the next one. And if you have extra zucchini, just make some extra skewers. Everyone loves grilled zucchini. Zucchini's done. I'm gonna move on to my chicken. Remember, I saved it for last. I don't want any cross-contamination. Same method. I'm gonna skewer about 8 pieces of chicken. And if they're a little big, you can kind of tuck them under. Again, we want everything about the same size. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this just helps with even cooking. And as you see, I'm putting my chicken all on one skewer. I'm putting my zucchini all on one skewer. So in case my chicken takes a little bit longer and my zucchini's done, I can pop my zucchini off and just keep it warm. I get real bummed out when I see skewers that have like a big chunk of, onion and a big chunk of pepper and then a huge thing of chicken. I'm like, none of those cook at the same time. The chicken's gonna be overcooked and the onion's still gonna be raw. To ensure everything is cooked properly and not overcooked or undercooked, I like to keep everything separate. So I keep my meat on one skewer and I keep my veggie on another. And I only mix my veggies up if I know that they have the same cooking time. So if I'm gonna do zucchini, maybe just yellow squash. I'm not gonna do zucchini and a potato. If you are gonna use heartier vegetables, say like root vegetables, like beets or potatoes, you wanna parboil or par cook them. Parboiling, par cooking means you're just gonna cook it a little bit more than halfway. So you can boil it, you can pop it in the oven, you can microwave it. You just wanna make sure you cook it a little bit more so it's ready to go on the grill and you're not cooking it the entire time. Let's add the last 2 pieces of chicken. So I have 6 skewers. Everything's ready to go. I'm gonna go wash my hands because I was touching chicken, and then I will show you how to pop these on the grill. So hands are washed. They're just mildly yellow. It'll go away with a few more hand wash, so don't worry. But let's make sure we oil our grill. It's up to 450. So you can do this with a clean rag, paper towel, or you can even do this with a brush. Just make sure it's a grill safe brush. So grab your tongs, grab your clean towel, and dip it in your high smoke point neutral oil. Again, canola, vegetable, grapeseed work, and just oil the grates. I really don't want my kebabs to stick. I think that the trick to making sure your food doesn't stick to your grill, making sure it's clean, making sure you oil the grates, and making sure once you add whatever you're cooking to your grill, you let it rest for a second. You don't immediately try and turn it. It needs to form a crust before you try and turn it, because that will be its natural release from the grills when it forms that crust. That looks perfect. So we are gonna start by putting on our chicken and our zucchini because it'll take roughly the same amount of time to grill. So we're gonna add our chicken, our zucchini, we're gonna cook it for about 5 to 7 minutes with the lid closed. Then we'll come in, we'll flip everything, and we'll cook it 8 to 10 minutes more or until the chicken is cooked through. So again, this is kind of depending on your grill, depending on how big you cut everything. You just wanna make sure your chicken is cooked through, but we cut it pretty small, so it should cook quickly. You wanna hear that sizzle? And if you want, you can kind of move things around. So after I cook it for 5 to 7 minutes, I'll pop it open. I know this skewer right in front, it's probably not gonna cook as fast as the one in the back, so I'll move things around as needed. Don't feel like you have to put stuff on the grill and it's like, that's its home forever. Once it forms a crust, once you can move it around, it's not like burgers, you don't wanna move that too much or press down on it. You can move these skewers around. There's gonna be hot spots on your grill. You need to find them. So feel free to move as needed. Okay, last one on. Again, let's cook this for about 5 to 7 minutes, grill closed, and then we will come and check and move things around. These have been cooking for 5 to 6 minutes, so let's give them a flip. And I want to take these ones in the front and just switch it with the one in the back, because the back will always cook a little bit hotter than the front. You can see some nice char on it, some nice grill marks. These look great. And the thing with chicken, you'll know it's done. It should be white, there's no pink in it, and it should feel firm to the touch. Let's flip our zucchini as well. Again, I'm gonna take this one in the front and switch it with the one in the back. So I still want them to be a little tender crisp, but cooked through and charred. All right, so cook these for another 8 to 10 minutes until the chicken is cooked through. And when these are ready to come off, I'm gonna pop on my tomatoes like 1 to 2 minutes per side. They go really, really quick. Okay, I think they're ready to come off. I always like to take my chicken off like 5 degrees before it's done cooking because it will have carryover cooking. So it'll reach that temperature once I take it off. You just want it to be firm to the touch and bounce back. Take these off. I'm just gonna clean off the grates real quick and then add my tomatoes. Give it a quick brush. And I'm gonna bump up my heat a little bit because I'm not gonna close the lid when I do these tomatoes. You're looking just to get a little bit of char on it, but if you cook tomatoes too long, they start to fall apart, they'll burst on you, they'll drip down through the grates. It's not what I want. I just want to kind of warm them through. About 1 to 2 minutes per side. It's been a couple minutes, let's flip our tomatoes. That's what I'm looking for, they're just starting to blister. Flip. You don't want to smush your tomatoes, they'll burst on you. So just carefully kind of go around each tomato to move them over. I'm gonna cook these for another 1 to 2 minutes and then we're gonna pop them off. All right, let's take off our tomatoes. They're just starting to sizzle and to burst, so I want to keep them whole. It looks so pretty, it's like a nice pop of color. So I like to serve this family style because everyone can kind of grab a kebab, grab whatever they want. I serve it with some hummus and some rice. You could serve it with, I don't know, some roasted potatoes if you feel like. But I love the tomatoes, they just lightly burst. We have the spiced rub zucchini, which is tender and crispy and a little charred, and then that chicken is cooked perfectly. And I didn't have to worry about flare-ups because I used that dry rub, so I didn't have to worry about scorching anything. And pre-soaking my skewers means they're still intact. They didn't fall apart on the grill. In this chapter, we learned why it's important to soak your skewers, why I like to separate my meat from my veggies, and why I prefer using a dry rub over a marinade. I showed you one combo, which is one of my favorites, which is chicken, tomatoes, and zucchini, but the possibilities are endless. I think kebabs, skewers are a great thing to have for a large group of people, for a party. Everyone can kind of mix and match, and I hope you see how easy it is to make your own skewers. So get out there and get creative.